I woke up that morning to find my world had disappeared. Not physically, but legally. My 2,500 acres of farmland, the land my family had worked for generations, was suddenly gone, sold, without my consent, by an HOA. Yes, an homeowners association. The very people I thought were just a distant, boring council managing. Suburban rules had somehow crossed the line into a crime scene, and somehow the law, or at least their interpretation of it, was on their side. I remember standing there, coffee in hand, staring at the notice nailed to my barn. Red ink, bold letters, property sold, as if someone could just sell my life's work like a pack of trading cards. I felt anger, disbelief, and then a little flicker of something else. Because here's the twist. While they thought they could steal 2,500 acres from me without consequence, they had no idea. I wasn't planning to sit quietly. I wasn't going to call a lawyer cry in my kitchen or post passive-aggressive signs. No, I had a plan. A plan that might just be legal, but more importantly, satisfying. What I did next? Well, let's just say the HOA's perfect little houses weren't safe anymore. And it all started with a single shocking realization. They had underestimated me. By the time this is over, I wasn't just getting my land back. I was rewriting the rules. I had always loved living near my farmland. The wide open spaces, the smell of fresh soil, the way the wind carried freedom itself. My neighbors were mostly quiet people who minded their own business. That is, until the HOA stepped in. At first it was small things, notices about fences, complaints about machinery, and oddly specific rules about how I could plant my crops. I thought it was annoying but manageable. Then the notices became threats, fines, and even claims that parts of my land belonged to the community. I tried to talk to them, politely explaining that the land had been in my family for generations, but their board members seemed almost excited to push me around. One of the board members, a woman with a perfectly trimmed lawn and perfect smile, said I needed to comply or face legal action. Another neighbor whispered that the HOA had done similar things before, but nobody fought back. Every time I tried to clarify something, I felt their glares and heard their whispers. Every fine I received felt like a punch to the gut. And yet I kept calm, pretending to be reasonable even as my patience was running thin. Then one day I came home to find a bulldozer near the edge of my property, digging a trench that didn't belong there. That was when I realized that this was not just about rules or neighbors being picky. This was a full-scale attempt to take something that wasn't theirs. That was just the beginning. After that day, nothing was normal again. The HOA seemed determined to make my life impossible. They put up signs claiming certain areas were restricted. They sent letters threatening more fines. They even tried to block access to my property with gates. One morning I found strange tire tracks across my fields and a note that read in bold letters that I should leave immediately. Another time they reported me to local authorities for supposed environmental violations that didn't exist. Shock, fear, and disbelief mixed together every time I dealt with them. I started keeping detailed records of every incident, taking photos, videos, and emails. It was exhausting but necessary. Small wins came occasionally, like when a fine was overturned or when neighbors secretly offered support, but each one of these victories was followed by another ridiculous demand or threat. The board seemed almost gleeful in their escalation. Late-night phone calls, letters sent to my mailbox, and even people trying to tamper with my equipment. I laughed sometimes just to keep sane, sometimes cried quietly at the injustice. I realized this was more than bureaucracy, more than petty power trips. They were testing me, seeing if I would crack. I didn't. I started thinking about how to turn the tables, how to use their overconfidence against them. The feeling of planning something clever and just legal enough gave me a strange, calm confidence. I wasn't going to let this continue. I had to fight back. I spent nights crafting a plan to expose their abuse and reclaim my rights. I documented everything meticulously, every illegal move, every overreach, every threat. I researched laws, zoning regulations, and homeowners association rules to understand their weak points. I even spoke to legal experts who confirmed my instincts that while they overstepped their authority, I could act within my own legal rights. Then I started small. I placed signs around my property to assert ownership, made public records requests, and quietly rallied neighbors who had suffered silently. Every symbolic act, every lock changed. Every vote carefully executed signaled that I was taking control without breaking any law. Slowly, cracks appeared in their power. Board members started arguing. Publicly, complaints were dismissed by authorities and their credibility began to falter. I could see the fear in their eyes that I might actually outsmart them. That gave me satisfaction, but I stayed calm. Every step calculated, every action precise. I was ready to move from planning to execution to finally turning the tables fully. The day of the confrontation was surreal. I presented all evidence to local officials. Neighbors gathered and watched as the HOA's overreach was publicly exposed. Cameras documented everything. Every threat, every illegal sale, every fine was countered with facts and records. Board members were forced to answer questions under scrutiny. Their confidence shattered. One by one, fines were reversed, legal actions dismissed, and land officially returned to me. Neighbors whispered congratulations, and some even clapped. It felt like slow-motion justice, each decision, each acknowledgement of their wrongdoing, reinforcing the fact that careful preparation wins. I walked through my land, looking at the fields, at the fences, at the restored freedom, and said quietly to myself that no one underestimated me again. The poetic justice was satisfying. I didn't just win back my property. I rewrote the narrative for anyone who thought small associations could intimidate. Large truths, my final words to them were simple. Justice served. Looking back, I realize how important it is to stand firm even when the odds seem stacked against you. Documentation, patience, and strategic planning are often more powerful than brute force or anger. I also learned that sometimes the biggest victories come from keeping calm while others underestimate your resolve. If you take one thing from this story, let it be that knowledge. And careful action create results even against unfair systems. Comment below with how you would have handled it, or comment. Justice served if you made it to the end. And remember, sometimes the best revenge is watching the rules bend in your favor, while your opponents learn humility in real time.